Well, greetings and salutations, test takers. This is the Series 7 Guru coming to you from my off-grid studio, getting our kicks in the historic Route 66. Our very important VIP guest is back from travels. I think he was in the Midwest taking in a Cubs game. Brian Lee, managing member of Test Geek Exam Prep LLC. And we'll take care of some housekeeping, and then we'll see what we can help you with in terms of content. All right. Tell us, by the way, where you're joining, what series exam you're taking, where you're joining us from. We're starting to get, I've got so many Brazilians in my life. It's ridiculous. They've been passing their exam. So the nature of it, I'll probably lose my Brazilian cohort, but we have some people from India joining us. So tell us where you're joining us from and what a series exam you're taking. If you do have a question, once we get the housekeeping out of the way, it would be helpful if you have a question for Brian or myself, is you tell us what exam you're taking. You know, a lot of the stuff is testable on numerous exams, but in terms of depth, it can be helpful. Sometimes we can guess based by the nature of your question what exam you're taking. But helpful if you can tell us what what exam you're taking, SIE with a capital Q or 7 or 6 or whatever, that'd be helpful. Now, if you're looking for a free supplement to your paid study materials, there's nothing better than my YouTube channel. It's organized in a series playlist. So you find your series playlist, SIE, for example, or 65, for example, 66, for example. The playlists are in suggested watch order. So if you're taking a 65 or 66, Brian and I did a podcast series on both those. That's the first playlist, just to give you an overview of your entire exam. The videos in those playlists are in suggested watch order. So if you want to binge, that's the way to do it. It's a buffet. Take what you like, leave what you don't. Now, if you have a particular question, it's okay. You know, Brian and I know that this evening we're going to answer the questions that have been asked to us numerous times and is in video format forever using the channel search bar. So, for example, Brian told me, Dean, do you know what a client relationship summary is? I say I do, and I have a little short on it, right? So you put that in the channel search bar, that will come back. That's the way you find like accrued interest or margin or some particular topic you're interested in. If you're looking for a paid supplement, I always say it is not a time to be frugal. If you have the resources, we understand that maybe starting out you don't have the resources, but if you do have the resources, it is time to invest in yourself. If you don't have a Kaplan Q Bank, I think the Kaplan Q Bank is one of the best paid supplements you can ever get. Kaplan, if you want like the 7, with my 15% discount code at checkout, you can actually get the Q Bank for $55.80. Brian has been kind enough to give our viewers a 20% discount on his content. That's Guru 20. He has a video series that is a really great distillation of the test prep vendor material, what you actually need for the exam itself, as well as a PDF that has class notes and my favorite thing, a practice test that has very strong correlation to the actual exam. All in on Brian, a little over $100, I think, with that discount code. Now, in terms of other things we have available for you, I do collaborative classes with Kaplan, and I do the 66 this week, this month, September 22nd and 24th. I'm also doing 17th and 19th. So those are Guru Exam Prep collaboration classes with Kaplan. I'm doing a Series 7 with Kaplan, 20 and 22nd. And again, the Guru 15 discount code works on those as well. On our booking page, if you win the coaching call, you do not win tutoring at a date and time of your choice. What you win is a coaching call. And if you win, you go to deantinneytutoring.setmore.com. There's a class tab. It says coaching call. And you register that, and it sends you a link, and then I show up. Now, Brian, we do this weekly. And this morning I had 6 people on the coaching call. You know, I'm not going to check IDs and make sure you won, but it says coaching call for weekly winners, right? We also do some free things there. We do a weekly Q&A jam session. That's available for you as well on the booking page. That is free. If you are one of my returning students, I have free office hours for paid students, Key Point paid students. You are not alone. You are not alone. We have several communities. Oh, let me get rid of that. We have a Facebook called Baby Brokers Doing Hat Tricks. Baby brokers is not a derogatory term. It's a term of endearment for rookies in the securities industry. Hat trick is 3 successes in a row. SIE 766 or SIE 663. You get the idea. We could do other exams there. We're coming up on 2,000 members there, Brian. We have chats for all of the exams. There's study groups always being formed. So if you're into Facebook, that's available for you. I'm not big on Facebook, so I apologize. But if you're trying to reach me, don't be sending me Facebook messages because it might be 2 weeks before I actually, on Facebook. Best way to find me is, here on the YouTube channel. We have Reddit communities. We have a Reddit community for the 6, our Series 6 subreddit. We have a subreddit for SIE and 7, our Series 7. We have a subreddit for all the NASA exams, 63, 65, 66, our Series 66. And we have a subreddit for 9s, 10s, and 24s, our Series 24. Okay, I think that takes care of the housekeeping. So let's go see what we got going on in chat.
Let's do it.
Boom, boom, boom. Woohoo! Oh man, does that looks like LeBron James? I'm not quite sure that's really you. But maybe you got a doppelganger. Let's go for sure. I'm no longer in my studio in fabulous Las Vegas. January 1st, I moved off grid. So now I'm coming to you from Arizona, on northern Arizona, off grid on Route 66 between Kingman and Flagstaff. But yeah, let's go. Let me give her that banner. Boom. Okay. Hey, Dean, just finished Series 7 book. I love that. That alone, CT, turns me on. When somebody says they finished the book, I'm like, love it. Going to start the QBank consistently. Love it. I'm at 42.66. I'm not sure if that's scores or QBank usage. I'm going to assume that's QBank usage.
I think so.
I have a long way to go. Any advice for a study plan to success? I got to tell you, CT, you're already on the road to success because you've done some of the things we beg people to do that they don't do, which is read the book. So now that you're doing your QBank, Brian has, I think, one of the best ways to matriculate down the field into scoring position. Yes. And Brian and I'm a big fan. I think that melded our study plan. I believe CT in study blocks. So I don't know if you're a part-time studier, full-time studier. Today I was talking to a full-time studier. I said, listen, can you commit to me as a full-time studier 4 study blocks of 90 minutes? You start work at 8 to 9:30. You have to do 30 minutes, refresh, reset. Then you do another 90 minutes. So that would be 8, 9:30, 10, 11:30, take lunch, come back 1 o'clock to 2:30, take 30 minutes, 3 to 4:30. That's a day. That's 8 hours. That's 4 study blocks. That's 6 hours a day. That's plenty. You do any more than that, I think you're kind of going to run out of fuel. Yeah, you're going to exhaust yourself before you get to the airport, right? The landing field. You won't have enough fuel to stick the landing. I also believe in rotating your activity. So I wouldn't want you in those study blocks to be doing 6 hours of reading. If you're reading in the first study block, watch a video to consolidate that reading, or watch the video before you do the reading to put a dent in that reading, then do some practice questions. Now, here's Brian's kind of matriculation through this. If you're on Unit 1, after you get done with Unit 1, you do 25, 30 practice questions. You get a 70, 75%, then you move on to Unit 2. Unit 2, 70, 75%. You do not move on. I love this part, Brian. This is a golden nugget for sure. You consolidate by doing a custom quiz of Unit 1 and 2 before you move on to Unit 3. One of the problems people sometimes have is by the time they finish, they forgot what they did in Unit 1. This way, you're continually bringing up that caboose. And now once you get that all done, you're almost, because you're going to keep happening to your custom quizzes, Unit 4, custom quiz, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you're ready to do 7, 10 days out, practice tests, intellectual inventories. We're not doing practice tests mindlessly to try and learn things. Please, there's still some OGs out there that tell people, Brian, don't read the book, just do a bunch of practice tests and go take the test. That is such a recipe for failure. You don't want to do that. We're trying to find out what you don't know, counterintuitive, identify areas for remediation so that we know you have a margin of safety when you actually go test. So that would be my advice. in executing a study plan. Now, Brian has a free YouTube video on your channel, Test Geek. Is that there or not?
What's
Do
that?
you have a study plan video on YouTube or not?
PDF. It's a PDF.
Oh, he has a PDF, and he's been kind enough, CT, to offer that to folks. If you send him an email politely and say, hey, Brian, can I have your PDF? He might respond kindly to that. And that would be Brian at testgeekexamprep.com if you want that PDF from Brian. Any comments, Brian, on that?
Yeah, if I may add something.
Sure.
Where Dean and I make hay, if you so to speak, that textbook and 42% of the Q Bank is a tremendous amount of material. You throw options in there, you throw munis in there, you throw all kinds of things in there. It's a lot for the head to kind of assimilate and understand all that. That's where Dean and I come in. Now that you've gotten through the textbook and half of the Q Bank, go through Dean's videos. Now, of course, just like he said, it's a buffet. I mean, you can watch all of his Series 7 videos or find some areas of interest that might help accelerate those particular areas. I do the same thing, not quite the same way, but I take all of that information, consolidate it to what is most testable. So now you're here with all of this information flowing out your ears. Now what you need to do is consolidate and accentuate those areas that you're having trouble with, the options, the munis, whatever. That's what Dean does. That's what I've done. That's where you're at now. Watch those videos to help consolidate and reinforce those concepts.
Love it. All righty. Just finished my hat trick. AP, how did I know you were going to pass? AP, you've been one of my favorite test takers over those last several weeks as you executed your study plan. In your honor, we're going to drink something very, very special this evening.
Whoa.
We're going to do the Selection Suprema. This is, woohoo. That's a very fine tequila. That is one of the finest tequilas there is. And so we do two things for victorious test takers. I don't know, AP, a double shot. We ring the bell.
Ouch, ouch, ouch.
My only hesitation, AP, on the double shot of the Selection Suprema is this is a very fine. I'm not so sure I want to drain this bottle in a Tuesday live stream. But I'll give myself a nice, I'll give myself a heavy pour. And where is my decanter? And here we go. This is what I do. I drink and I know things. Brian and I are fortunate that the things we know are worth paying for.
Yes.
So kudos. I am so excited for you. You certainly deserve it. You know, passing these tests is not a function of smarts. It's a function of being dedicated, disciplined, and organized. Now, on any of those three things, if you're not as organized, you're going to have to be more dedicated, disciplined. You know, if you're not disciplined, well, then you're going to have to be a little more organized. But I think those are the three key ingredients. And AP, that's why you warm my heart, because you have demonstrated over these last several weeks on the live streams that you are dedicated, you're disciplined, you're organized. That also is a future indicator of your success in our securities industry. So welcome, my friend, welcome. On chapter 8, Louisville, I don't like to call that regulation of securities. I like to call that registration of securities. Now, don't get me wrong. NASA calls that regulation of securities. Test prep vendors call that regulation of securities. But what you're really being tested on is registration of securities. And if, what not, why not? Yes, we have all kinds of videos that can be helpful. One that Brian did for us that people just really love and contributes to a lot of testing victories is called Definition of Persons. What do we call that video, Brian? You remember definition
and registration of persons?
There you go. So that certainly will help you. I have the Uniform Securities Act in 90 minutes, my mighty 90, that I think can be very helpful in that regard. Put registration of securities in the channel search bar, and I'm sure some various little videos, carve-outs will come up as well.
There's not a whole lot on the test. You might see.
Yeah, good point. So, Louisville, Brian and I both agree on this, and it just, I said that AP warms my heart. This hurts my heart. That so many people get in the weeds about registration of securities and exempt securities and exclusions. And, there's only 2, 3, 4 questions there. And it's mainly about registering the security and not all the exemptions, not that laundry list of exempt securities from exempt issuers. And then it's either a noun, a security. The main ones would be like governments and munis that are exempt, or it's a non-exempt security, in which case it's the way we're selling it that makes it exempt from registration. Think here like private placement, something like that. And that's a verb. And that's the way I kind of set that up. But if it's a non-exempt security, then that means it's a corporate security. And unless you sell it a certain way, you're going to have to register it through coordination and qualification. That's more important than all these exclusions and exemptions. And oh my God. Now in that area, Brian, I think we also agree, this law and registration part of your exam. The registration component, broker dealer is pretty straightforward. Agents pretty straightforward. The majority of the registration questions are going to be, how do we register investment advisory firms? If not, why not? How do we register investment advisor reps? If not, why not? So, Brian, thanks for reminding me to tell people don't overdose on exempt securities and exempt transactions. Test in a week. I'm finishing up Brian's Test Geek lectures. Love it. Finding my weaknesses. Love it, Oz. It's counterintuitive, but that's what you're trying to do. Is find your weaknesses. I had somebody who was really down on themselves, Brian. They called me and said, I missed 200 questions. I go, well, let's try 400 misses tomorrow. That's a good thing. You're finding out all the things you don't know. The worst time to find out what you don't know is on the actual test, right? So I love that. Love that. Struggling with understanding the dividend discount model, discounted cash flow, net present value. So let's start with net present value. I just dropped a short video on net present value. That's a valuation technique. So, Oz, it's not going to be first. Let's just say what we said before about 66 as it relates to registration of securities. If you tell Brian or myself that you failed your 66 because of the dividend discount model, discounted cash flow, or net present value, we're going to say, you had bigger problems elsewhere. But, Brian is a serious math geek. I am not. He's not only a test geek, he's a math geek. And I said, call Brian. And I say, hey, Brian, I'm thinking about buying this 10-year 7% bond. And, I know Brian, 7% on par is $70. I'm going to get 2 payments each year of $35. So that means I'm going to get 20 payments of $35, Brian. And I know that I'm buying it at, let's say, 900. I know I'm going to get back 1,000. What I don't know, Brian, is what is the present value of those future payments in that $1,000. What I'd like to know before I decide to buy the bond, what is the present value? So Brian calls me up. This is the video I just dropped today. And he says, Dean, the present value of the bond is 900. I said, okay. He said, well, Dean, what's the market price? I said, well, the market price, Brian, is 940. And he said, well, Dean, why would you want to pay 940 for something worth 900 based on net present value? It has negative net present value, right? That means it's overvalued. He says, Dean, in my opinion, doing the math, there's other ways to value bonds, but using this net present value valuation, Dean, that's a bad deal. He says, Dean, what's the price? Remember, he told me in present value. He did the math for me. We don't have to do the math, right? I had a guy in one of the live streams, Brian. I told him that my friend Lee has made thousands of dollars over the years doing math that I choose not to do in banking deals and things like that. They say, oh, you shouldn't be in our business if you can't do your own math. I said, well, I assure you, there are all kinds of very successful people in our business who can do math and who cannot do math. And good news, if even people who can do math sometimes hire somebody. But anyways, I say, hey, Brian, it's priced at 880. He said, well, great, Dean, man, you can get for 880 a bond that has a present value of 900. That has $20 of positive net present value. It is undervalued. And so it's just getting comfortable with the language. One more. Brian says, Dean, what's the market price? I said, damn, Brian, such a coincidence, man. It's 900. It's the same as the present value. He goes, well, Dean, that is priced very efficiently. The market's on top of that, right? So the point is all the people out there can do math or hire somebody to do math. So it's unlikely we're going to find a big, differentiate, an arbitrage opportunity there. Okay, now let's move on. Discounted cash flow, same idea. I'd say, Brian, I'm getting these 20 payments of $35. I'm trying to figure out what those payments are worth by doing discounted cash flow. Again, we're trying to come up with present value, right? Present value, not net present value, just the present value. Because that's a kind of a helpful thing to know. The classic one here, is I call Brian again because he's the math guy. I say, hey, Brian, I just won the lottery. They told me I can have $1 million right now, lump sum, or I can have $50,000 a year for 25 years. And Brian said, why are you calling me? I said, well, because Brian, I know it's a math problem. And, what should I do? Should I take the 25 grand or 50 grand for 25 years, $1 million? He says, Dean, let me do a discounted cash flow valuation for you. If he tells me the payments doing DCF are only worth 800, I'm taking the $1 million. If he tells me it's $1.2 million, I'm taking the payments. Brian, always think of these shows, these commercials, call J.D. Whitworth, and what they're asking people is, do you have payments? Do you have some kind of a payment that you're receiving? Would you like to be cashed out of that? And that's what they're doing. They're doing DCF and then figuring out what present value is and giving you a discount to that. Now, if you apply that valuation technique to a stock, that's called the dividend discount model. So these are mainly aim and shoot, point and click recognition. I see that Brian's got his board out. I'm going to turn it over to you, Brian. So let me give that Brian a board.
Actually, all I was doing was repeating exactly what you're saying. It's an analysis to determine the fair market price or present value of an investment based on the future income that's produced from that investment. Most likely that's going to be a bond, right? Because it pays us annual income payments. And it's easy to determine based on the coupon, the par value, and the number of years until it matures. With stocks, it's a little bit more problematic because dividends are not fixed, right? Unless, of course, you're talking about a preferred stock. And then you just take the annual income from that stock, right? The preferred stock, which is a dividend, and divide it by its expected rate, right? Maybe it's a 4% preferred or 5%. So whatever the expected return is, and that will determine present value. Now on the Series 66, they might simply ask you to regurgitate this formula.
Yeah, I think it's mainly recognition.
That's exactly right. They're not going to ask you to compute it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oop, now I get this back. There we go.
There you go.
One other point before we move on. If I'm doing discounted cash flows that applies to a stock, I could make a distinction in the common stock. For example, Bank of America had an 18-cent quarterly dividend. Now it's 21 cents. It's going to 24 cents. I can factor that into my DCF analysis, and that's called the dividend growth model. You obviously can't apply that to a preferred stock because the dividend isn't growing. But same thing, I say, hey, Brian, what is the present value of these dividends I'm going to receive from Bank of America? It's, again, a valuation technique. If you get Brian's recognition question about dividend growth model, the test question would be that would justify a higher valuation. In other words, we'd be willing to pay more for the stock with a DCF analysis that includes the idea that the dividend will be growing over the course of, forever, terminal value, whatever the case may be.
Something just as a memory device, this formula, which is asked, to recognize on the Series 66, most likely, sometimes 65, is just a reorganization of the current yield.
Yeah, I just noticed that. I thought the same thing.
Because that's price, right? So if you just did annual income divided by price, right? We all know that as the current yield formula. So that's just kind of a reciprocal of the current.
Yeah, I like that.
That's an easier way to remember that.
Catherine Morgan coaching. All right. Woo! I'll tell you, this is some mighty fine tequila. I was telling Brian that I joined a cigar lounge, and I always like meeting new people, Brian. And I said, hey, do you have any recommendations for a cigar? And he says, well, Dean, I have a good recommendation. It's pretty pricey. And I said, well, Steve, he's the guy who owns the place. I go, I'm using a market order. I'm more interested in execution than price. He goes, I haven't told you the price. I said, Steve, I don't want to, hurt your feelings here, but I've traveled the world. And I know that if I'm in Prescott, Arizona, there is no cigar in that humidor I can't afford. don't think you're stocking $400 or $500 cigars. Now, a limit order, Catherine, would be when I tell Steve, hey, what can I get for $20 or less? That would be a limit order.
There's your limit
So
order.
I love it. I love it. So okay, I hate to be send out negative vibes, but here I go. Catherine, you have slayed your Series 7 dragon, and there is no reason for you not to have some pep in your step, feeling good about yourself. I just want to warn you to not suffer from hubris. Make sure you respect the 66. There's just enough overlap, Catherine, that you might think, hey, this is the same stuff. I got this. And so, make sure you respect each and every one of these exams in and of itself. Don't rely too much on that 7 base you have. I'm not saying that's a bad thing that you've got a 7 base. I'm saying, how many times, Brian, have we seen somebody, victorious test taker, walk into a 66 and, miss the mark, and they're surprised, and, rightfully so.
And the best way to get prepared for that is to do your and my Series 66 podcast. Gives you a great overview of what to expect.
The terrain,
yes.
In cigars and in wine. Yeah. Those things, Catherine, we have a term called terroir. The terroir. This is a good way to get an overview of that terroir, that terrain, to see what it's all about.
I like that term.
You like that? Brian, I don't
want
to
be wine. I use it with wine all the time.
Yeah, Brian, I don't want to sound like a snob, but I was telling a guy, he goes, what do you have against this wine? You're so prejudicial. I said, well, you're telling me where this comes from. And if I were a grape, I just wouldn't want to live there. Right. So I understand we're trying to stress grapes, but do I want to live in like clay? No, I don't know. I can't imagine that wine's any good. Brian hails from, I guess, Brian, you might get in trouble if you have 2 primary residences. I hear that could get you into trouble. Good news, you're not on the Fed, so I think you're safe. But Brian is in the Northwest, and there's some great wine up there in the Northwest, particularly Pinot Noirs. Grapes love it up there. Grapes love it up there. Back again, focusing on regulations. Well, again, I don't call it regulations. Dean calls it registrations. Registrations. Next few days, practice on Monday when I test. Any tips from final stretch? I love what you're doing. No more than 1 practice test a day. You're doing what I call intellectual inventories. We're trying to find out identify areas of remediation. So that's what I would be doing. If you're testing Monday, this is Tuesday. So if I were your corporate trainer, I'm not. But if I was, I'd say, Haas, how many practice tests, how many inventories are we going to do between now and Monday? Yeah, you say 3. I say fine. 4. You say 5. I said 5. That's a little much. No more than 1 a day. Identifying areas for remediation. Brian, your thoughts?
Yes, I have an important thought for those taking the 65, 66. We've heard already tonight several people working on laws and regs, which is great. Good area to work on because it's typically the largest portion of both the 65 and 66. However, what I have found in 30 years, 80% of the people, if they unfortunately don't make the grade the first time, what I have found is the areas with the lowest scores are actually the first 2, the business information, know your balance sheets, investment vehicles. And the highest section they get is the laws and regs. So they do well predominantly on the laws and regs. Good, great. But don't ignore these first 2.
Right on, Brian. Right on. Acolyte. I've been spending time watching Brian's videos. That's a good investment.
Thank you.
Better than reading the material on topics like what should you focus on for munis? Well, I think I'll turn it over to Brian. I think the biggest component of munis to get down is the differences, to be able to contrast GOs and revenues. So Acolyte, I would recommend you take a sheet of paper, fold it in half. On one side, write all the terms associated with GOs. On the other, all the terms associated with revenue bonds, because they love which of the following is true of a GO or all the following are true except that kind of thing. So that's how I would focus on munis. Your thoughts, Brian?
That's exactly right, Dean. That's one of the best advice you could give anybody for munis. You've got to know those characteristics. 5 or 6 on GOs, 5 or 6 characteristics on revenue bonds should get you 3 or 4 or 5 questions
right on
Series 7. Also, one other warning, if you know me very well, you know that I rail on some of these textbooks that go way above and beyond where the test does. Dean and I have talked about this many, many times, especially for the Series 7. They're still written for the old legacy 250 question. And one area that they go way overboard on are the Muni underwriting sections. There is some underwriting Muni questions, 2 or 3, not 56 of them. So,
yeah, in the old days, Brian and I know that test prep vendors have legacy issues. The old 7 was 2 3-hour sessions of 125 questions. And in those days, the MSRB wouldn't recognize the 7 unless there were 55 questions on munis.
Exactly.
That being the case, you would get asked about a lot of minutia, but none of the test prep vendors that I'm aware of have, gone through and culled their Q bank for the questions that haven't been seen in many decades, years and years. So you're going to get the one that frost me, Brian, is like, can you calculate the mill rate on the assessed valuation? There's some very esoteric questions that nobody's seen in years.
I actually had to calculate the mill rate in 2003.
There you go. There you go.
The last time I took the Series 7. But it hasn't been on there since.
Yeah. 65 on Monday, working out of the Kaplan Bank and Brian's videos. Love it. We love it. Don, come on back. We'll see what we'll do next week. Mezcal, tequila, bourbon, scotch. You tell me, Don, and we'll break it out for you. Any advice on test anxiety? I'm an associate at an investment firm. Well, anxiety, there's a certain level of that that's helpful and a certain amount of that that's debilitating. I am not a psychologist. I am not a therapist, so take it for what it's worth. I think one way to take care of test anxiety is what I told AP. To be dedicated, to be disciplined, to be organized, to overlearn this material. Because if you can get some confidence, I believe that confidence can reduce anxiety. So, the other thing, Anthony, I tell people to do, and this has worked 100% of the time. Anthony, anytime you're suffering anxiety, I want you to go into your bathroom. I want you to look in the mirror. And I want you to say, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the greatest test taker of them all? Anthony, 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 hoorah! Now, hey, if that's 2-3 times a day, then, well, it is what it is. For people who don't have as much anxiety, maybe once in the evening, once in the morning. Brian, I've had now several test-taking candidates who told me they've actually done that at a break at the Prometric site, that they've gone into the restroom. I go, well, that'd be fun. You're sitting there and you hear somebody in the restroom. Hey, so I have a great deal of knowledge. Well, there you go. One class from CFP, so I don't get it. Well, don't get in the weeds. So maybe, Anthony, at some point do a practice test to get a score to see where you're in the weeds or not. So I would like to have data. Getting good data, a data point, would help maybe with test anxiety, right? So sit down, do a practice final, get a score. You come back and you tell Brian you got Brian and I, you got next to, well, I guess Tuesday's too late. Did we got a test date yet? I'm not sure if we have one. But anyways, take a test, practice test, get a score and let us know. Brian, your thoughts on anxiety?
Yeah. And it's interesting because Anthony seems to be on both sides. He knows he has knowledge, yet he knows he has anxiety. Anxiety is nothing more than the fear of not knowing something, right? You already have that knowing. And it's part of my mantra that I tell everybody. Just stay with what you know. You take the test. Don't let the test take you.
Oh, I love
You're
that.
knowledgeable. You know stuff.
I love that. I love that. I would get fired, Anthony, if I worked at the Prometric site, because I would probably say that to people coming in. Hey, Anthony, are you taking the test today, or is the test taking you? I don't know. I said, oh, that's a bad answer. Brian, I think I told you I put up the alpha exam. I thought long and hard about what I was going to put up the alpha exam. And it comes with a disclosure. It says, warning, unlike the actual test, which is a balance of easy and difficult questions, alpha presents you only with the most difficult questions and concepts you could expect to see. Do not be alarmed if you do not score as well as you have on your practice test. So, so I tell people they should stop. If they start getting wobbly, they should not do it. right? Because you're trying to build that confidence. So there's no reason for you not to be confident. Acolyte, I DM'd you on Reddit. I have a couple of questions. Well, there you go. Just past the 7. Woo! 2 weeks is plenty of time.
For the 63, it's plenty of time.
Is that like Cassell, like the Italian sunglasses? I like that. That's pretty cool. I have some Italian sunglasses. Maybe I'll someday bring out my sunglass collection. Besides having a lot of fine watches, I have a lot of capital tied up in glasses. And one of those are Cassells. They're kind of like Al Davis used to wear, Brian. And I had put on my wrapper watch and my Cassells, and I pulled into the bank teller window in my convertible, and she goes, "Man, you look like a drug dealer." I go, "Yeah, I'm not sure that's the look I was going for today." But I think 2 weeks is playing time for 63. Your thoughts, Brian, on 63?
Absolutely. Yeah, no doubt.
Brian and I come from a background where we used to, hire and fire people. And I used to, Brian, hand them their 63 materials and say, "I expect this to be done within the next couple of weeks." There's no sense to be. Now, by the way, that's 63, not 65, 66. Correct. 63. Those are entirely different dragons. I got a 66 on my first SIE attempt, taking it Monday, averaging 74.80. Any recommendations? Studying, I got a 63 and 85 to follow. I think what you're doing is fine. Just keeping the intellectual inventory. Brandon, if you haven't done so already, go to the FINRA website, and there's a FINRA SIE practice exam, which I think is most similar to the actual exam. If you don't want to go to the FINRA website, you can go to my playlist and find me and do it with me, where I hit pause, you hit pause, answer, and then I explain it to you. I also have a doppelganger version of it where I wrote my own version of it using their answer sets with different questions. You also, I don't know who your test prep vendor is. You might want to go to the playlist and check out the Test Geek SIE exam that's there for you. Brian's been kind enough to give us permission to put that on the channel for you. We have a Notman SIE practice test there for you. So maybe just get confirmation of where you're at by doing a couple different practice tests. But I think you're going to find the points. I think you're going to get it done this time. Brian, your thoughts?
Absolutely. I was going to say the same thing. The FINRA exam you got to do. Do as many different finals, my final, his doppelganger. And if you're scoring somewhere in that area, you should be fine.
Confirmation, Brandon. Hello, was wondering if you know the difficulty of the comparison between Notman. Notman, the variance is in your favor. It's harder. So Notman marks is harder than the actual exam. I'm having trouble with wording of the benchmark. Well, I would like a score, because trouble to me means I need data. So to just say I'm in trouble, I needed more data. So trouble means what in terms of a score? If you are in the 70% range on a Notman benchmark, you're fine. And I'd be willing to bet even if you're in the high 60s, you're going to pass. That would be my thoughts. That's called a variance, right? And I said the variance is in your favor. Some test prep vendors, it's not. So Notman, it is. That's one of the reasons I love Brian's practice test so much, is because there isn't a lot of variance. When you get a score on a Brian practice test, it does reflect, I think, pretty tight in what your score is. So. Are you back, Kevin? All right. Welcome back, man. Yeah, I got some rocks coming. I know you're excited. I waited for you to order some more rocks. You can't live off grid without lithium, propane, and a UPS driver. So Kevin is our UPS driver, and he's a very important person. Well, here we go. Voltswell. So did we get done with this one, Branderson? Brian, do you want to add anything else to Branderson's?
No.
Okay.
You got it. Yeah.
What would you recommend to improve weak performance tracker? Well, Brian and I both, Folesville, think that what makes Kaplan the best Q bank out there is because of the performance tracker. It makes it so much easier to identify areas of remediation. I'll let Brian take over because he loves that performance tracker.
I really do, because that's exactly what Dean's been preaching, since we began. We got to find the weak areas. Right? The chain is only as strong as its weakest areas. So you got to find those weak areas. And that's what the performance tracker does. It points out where the weakest areas are. Now, once you identify, and this is your question, what do you do from that? Well, you then correlate those units to Dean's video, whether it's municipal bonds or whatever. and check out the video, and then just do a small, short quiz on that particular unit, 10 to 12, 10 to 15 questions. I don't like doing 47,000 questions on one unit, okay? And just do that and repeat that.
Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat.
So again, depending on your time, either 2 to 3 week areas, and then once you remediate those areas, take another simulated exam.
Yeah, well, so don't be taking, how many times, Brian, do people tell us they're doing practice test after practice test after practice test, getting the same score because they're not remediating. They're not taking a strategic pause to kind of go lay some more base on that. One of my
that is a great question, Mr. Voltsville. It really is. And this is our recommendation.
That's one of your huge arrows in your quiver, one of your huge ammunition. Well, isn't this sad? This is so sad. Don't you love this, Brian, when people come into our life for a reason and a season? I'm going to miss you, Ray. Ray is just finished up his testing journey. We were able to help him cross that last journey, get his 66. And Ray, we still are going to do that cigar together. I know we're going to do that. And kudos, my friend. I come into your life for a reason and a season. The reason is to help you pass your exams. The season and how long that takes us. And I got to tell you, Ray, like AP, is one of those guys who's just a pleasure to work with. He's dedicated, he's disciplined, he's organized, and he deserves his testing victory, just like AP. So I'll miss you, my friend. You're always welcome to join us on any Tuesday. And, I have to say this. I mean, is he a handsome man or what?
Yeah, he is.
I mean, man, look at that.
I know where we could all meet. All successful test takers. We can all meet for a cigar, scotch, bourbon.
What, in your backyard?
In mine. We're all there. We're all within a few hours.
Joke. So, Ray, you look like $1 million, and I think there's going to be people that want to give you $1 million. Right on. And this is Selection Suprema. This is a Herradura product, and it's one of the finest tequilas in the world. That is so smooth. It's nice to have a mezcal on one end and a tequila on the other because they're completely different and in a yummy way. Beverly Hills, I love it. A lot of money in Beverly Hills. There's a country group. What are they called?
Thank you, Yasha.
The Gatlin Brothers. And they have a song I love. All the gold in California is in a bank in Beverly Hills with somebody else's name on it. Love it. Yeah, Brian's back. Brian, has a life outside of, not only helping people prepare tests, he's got other things to do. So every once in a while we miss him. Second time tomorrow, just left 4 day. Mark Esposito, love Brad. Esposito is one of my favorite guys. He's like Brian, he's my brother from another mother. Love Espo. If you spend 4 days with him, 4 days, that seems, is the 65 at Kaplan now 4 days? I can't imagine that Brad, by osmosis with Esposito, that he hasn't got you over the top, right? Esposito, Mark Esposito. I'm not a Kaplan employee, but I do still do business with Kaplan. And Brian Espo and I think we're the best Kaplan instructors.
Yeah. That's because I left.
That's right. And, Brad, it was funny. I think it's kind of funny because I have haters in social media, and sometimes I think that they get me. They like to say, "Well, if you're going to a Kaplan class, make sure you get Esposito because he's far and away the best instructor at Kaplan." And I love, Brian tells me I should turn the other cheek, but my dad is the missionary and I'm a Marine. I return fire. So Brad, I always say, no, as much as I love Espo, he isn't far and away best Kaplan instructor. That would be the Series 7 guru, and I am him. I think you're going to be fine. So Brad, you need to get a good night's rest. I don't know if you're on the East Coast, but don't do anything. I always say the Hippocratic Oath is first, do no harm. So wherever you're right now, it's kind of over. Your study plan is over. You need to get a good night's sleep because on NAS exams, reading skills are really important. I know, Brad, that when I'm tired, my reading skills are not in top form. So we want you to be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed tomorrow. Brad, we want you to be confident in the execution of your now concluded study plan. We want you to be confident in yourself. And most important, be confident in those answers tomorrow. Don't be changing your answers. Brian, you have any thoughts for our friend Brad?
Yeah, go to bed.
Get off this live stream.
Exactly. Go to bed.
What's a pass proof? Oh my God, bad question. There are
Ooh.
two nasty words we never use in the securities industry. Those two words are guarantee and approve. And you're on the edge, my friend Skittle, with the pass proof study method. Listen, there is none. If we had that, Brian and I wouldn't be here on a Tuesday night. We'd be in the Caribbean smoking cigars and drinking rum because we'd be
Aruba.
rich. Yeah, we'd be rich, right? So we went over a study plan earlier. If you rewind this, you can go back and we laid out in an entire, I don't know, 5-10 minute study plan. I'll clip it. I'll put it on the channel again. Working while studying, that I can address. So that's a little different. So now let's take that in. I think that it is a huge or a much bigger challenge to be a part-time study person, test taker.
It is a challenge.
Than full-time. Now, in earlier, I said we need study blocks, and we were talking in that conversation with a full-time test taker. I mean, that's their job. They're being paid to sit there and get these exams done for whatever period of time it is, 3 months, 6 months, entirely different. And boy, I'll tell you, Brian, how much does it warm our heart when we have like a single mom? I had a single mom. All she could study is 90 minutes before she put kids off to work and, when they come back. So here's the first thing. It's the same advice, full-time, part-time study. You need study blocks. You need to carve out study blocks of 60 to 90 minutes. I would say mornings are better than evenings. So I would say, can I get you to commit to 60 minutes, 7 to 8 or 6 to 7 before you go to work? The idea that you're going to have 10 minutes or 15 minutes, you're going to string that together. Your mind's not going to be in the place it needs to be. So I don't believe in trying to do 20 minutes at lunch and 20 minutes on the subway. I'm not a big fan of that. I would like, if you could, carve out 2 study blocks of an hour in the morning. Great. Whatever it is you can do, right? I would give yourself permission on Friday to take a day off and not do anything, to refresh and reset, because weekends are going to be really important, right? Because that's a time now where you're not having other people, energy vampires in your world, hopefully, right? And so maybe I'd say, okay, on the weekend, on Saturday, can I get 3 study blocks of 90 minutes from you? On Sunday, can I get 2? I taper it down on Sunday. So if you do 3 study blocks, 90 minutes, you got to take 30-minute break. So if you start at 8, 9:30, 10, 11:30, lunch, 1 to 3:30 minimum. If you want to do 4, that's fine. But if you do 3, 2 on Sunday, 4, 3 on Sunday, rotate activity, rotate, what you're studying. So what I mean by that is we don't want you on Saturday, let's say you're doing 3 study blocks, we don't want you reading. Some reading, watch a video, practice tests, mix up the activity. That'll keep you fresher, longer. And being fresh is really more of a challenge when you're a part-time studier. So that would be my recommendation. No, you're not alone. We have all kinds of people who are in a similar situation. I'd also say join our tribe. Get on Facebook. Baby Brokers Doing Hat Tricks. Get on our Reddit. There is a support network there. And I think part-time study is harder because maybe you don't have a cohort. Maybe, you feel like you're on your own, you're alone, and you're not. So I would say also get plugged in, get a tribe. Maybe you can get a study group in the evening. Those have upside, but a lot of downside too. So be careful about who you decide to spend time with. But maybe that would be an idea. Brian, your thoughts?
No, you hit the nail on the head. You got to have those blocks. That's what gives you the discipline, especially if you're working 8 hours a day. If you're committed to a 60 to 90 minute block, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then 3. And just like you said, rotate it. Read for 30 minutes. Do some practice questions for 30 minutes. Watch one of our videos for 30 minutes. That's the key. Is it pass proof? Nothing is.
Nothing is.
Need that structured, right, systematic plan. That's what's going to give you the best opportunity to pass.
That's right. It's going to be harder to be dedicated, disciplined, and organized, but it's more important, actually.
That's right.
I had merchant on Series 7. Well, Catherine, my guess is, I don't know how fresh it is, but I would think the one that I've heard of being on the exam is a wine merchant who's importing wine. What does wine merchant mean? It just means an importer. So in the context of saying I'm a wine merchant, it means I buy wine and I sell it. So, and then the question becomes pretty easy because exporters buy puts, importers buy calls. So if I'm a wine merchant in New York City, this is the version I've heard. So I'd be interested in chat if this is the version you experienced. A wine merchant in New York City buys European wines. What might he do to hedge? And you'd say, okay, well, what am I afraid of? Am I afraid my dollars are strong and I come back with more wine? No, I'm afraid the dollar is weak. Now, I'm not being facetious here. The dollar is not a foreign currency. So if I'm saying the dollar is weak, I'm saying the euro is strong, right? So I would buy calls on the euro. So I'm not sure if that's the question you got. That's the only time I've heard of anybody encountering the term merchant on Series 7. Brian, have you had any reports of people encountering the word merchant?
I haven't, but I would like to comment a little bit about this. Kaplan, you, me, we all have those importer-exporter questions, buying calls, buying euro calls, buying. Who cares if it's Japanese technology company or a merchant or whomever? You know what the question's about. It's about importing and exporting and hedging a currency fluctuation, right? Epic or the reverse of epic.
IPEC if it's a Japanese company, right?
Exactly.
Sir, can I take the 65 and work as a registered investment advisor? You certainly can. You don't have to be a U.S. resident to work in the U.S. as an investment advisor. You have to be properly registered. So, you're not, by the way, taking a 65 doesn't make you a registered investment advisor. Very important test point. Passing the 65, assuming you go to work at an investment advisory firm, makes you an investment advisor representative, not an investment advisor. Those are different entities on the test. The firm is the investment advisor. You would be what we call an investment advisor rep. Are there additional requirements, restrictions, and challenges for foreign candidates? Well, the English as a second language could be kind of a challenge because it's not in English to begin with. It's in NASA legalese. No, you have the same requirements as a U.S. citizen. The challenge is going to be, Mateus, is finding a firm that will, allow you to work with them. Just got done with margin for Chapter 7. I feel good about the margin documents associated. I feel good. Okay. Anything else you should focus on? No. The danger most people have is they overemphasize or overdose on margin. In fact, my margin lecture is called Don't Overdose on Margin. There's only 3 or 4 questions, and all test prep vendors, again, I think, Brian, same thing, legacy. They go way overboard on margin. I mean, I feel bad that, Frankie, this person paid me to do past perfect margin questions with her for an hour that she's never going to see on her exam. So, it's a waste of your time. There are target-rich environments elsewhere. Frankie, yes, 2 weeks ago, Brian, it must have been 2 because you were gone last week, but we had a guy who I thought, Frankie, asked a really good question. What do we think are the rabbit holes on Series 7? And I said margin and direct participation programs. I think those are overemphasized by all test prep vendors. Your thoughts on margin, Brian?
One other part, there's typically a question. Now, again, Dean's absolutely right. You can't overdo it, OD on this stuff. There might be 3 or 4 margin questions. That's it. One question when it comes to the calculations that often comes up is SMA or buying power from SMA. So that's one thing that's missing from your little two formula.
I have, if you put margin in the channel search bar, Frankie, you will see all kinds of videos, class replays, lectures, practice questions. So we have plenty of content. I feel sometimes wary of putting more margin content on the channel because if you don't know better, you say, well, gee, it must be important. Dean's got 25 videos on this. No. Is there another license or path that makes more sense to work with clients and build? No, I don't think so, because the 65 is a standalone registration. It works without anything else. If you have a 66, you need a 7, right? So, I mean, and then you're going to have to find a broker dealer. So I think the 65 is the quicker path to being an investment advisor representative. Brian, your thoughts on any other registration?
No, there's no path.
Marcel, woohoo!
Oh my goodness!
I will email you tomorrow. I found something for your wall behind you. Oh, I love it! I love it. I don't know where we're going to fit it, Marcel. There's our wall with all our goodies, right? I have my Eagle Globe and Anchor there for my Marine service. I got a lot of bulls. Got a little bear over here. I got my little I think and drink and I know things. There's a bourbon decanter there, Brian. You see that little thing?
There you go. Yeah.
I got my Oorah. I got my my Reddit little guy. I got my Route 66. Hey, Brian, I paid a lot of money for that Civic sign. When I closed down my broker dealer, I took that sign with me. All right, I'll send you the email. I keep getting conflicted answers on this. If an IIR is applied by a federal cover IA, easy peasy. You only register in a state you have a place of business, period, full stop. It's that simple. No, there's no de minimis, Brad. You could have 1,000 clients. I'm here in Arizona. And let's say Dean decides to get back in the business, Brad, and I want to set up an investment advisory firm. If I have 100 million or more under management, I can have as many clients as I want in Nevada and not register because I'm an investment advisor rep of a federally covered advisor. I'd only have to register in Nevada if I had a place of business. So you're confusing de minimis. De minimis is only for state investment advisors and state investment advisor reps. It doesn't apply to the Fed. Fed, it's easy peasy. Brian's got his little thing there. How many times, Brian, do people miss these questions because they're trying to make it more complicated than it is?
It's one of the first things you really have to get down for either the 65 or 66 is the definition and registration requirements of these persons. And the federal IAR, as you just brought up, registers with the administrator, even though their firm does not. Only in the states in which they maintain their office. It has nothing to do with where their clients live or are residents. That is more for the state IAR, where their office is, or if they have clients, of course, it has to be greater than 5 clients, right? Because there's the de minimis. The de minimis only exists with state IAs and state IARs, nobody else.
I have, Brad, a great video called Who's Your Daddy? And it's about, are you going to be SEC or state? STC versus Kaplan. I prefer Kaplan, but hey, I'm a, Guru Exam Prep LLC has a professional relationship with Kaplan. So no surprise. They're both great test prep vendors. Right. What I like better about Kaplan is the size of their QBank and the customization and performance tracker of their QBank. Right. STC is a fine firm, but they're a little more thin on the QBank. This for chat. I am new. Where are Brian's practice tests located? Well, his on practice tests. On my channel, there's a playlist of practice tests, and Brian has been kind enough to allow us to have his practice tests on the channel where I explicate it. You hit pause, you come up with your answer, you hit play, you watch me answer it. You can get it directly from Brian for $20. That's the PDF, the answer key rationale, maybe a little more than $20. You can go to his website, testgeekexamprep.com, and you can download that PDF there as well. Or you can buy his videos that comes with that practice test and his class notes. So lots of places is the answer to that question. Brian's all over. He's in the multiverse. I
am all over the place.
Looks like we're coming up on our 60 minutes here. I'll bring the bubbly. There you go. That's champagne. It. Hey, Catherine, if you're into champagne, we can't call it champagne because it has to come from France. But Roeder Estate is in Anderson Valley, California. It's a great bubbly. If you like good champagne, yes, I highly recommend Roeder Estate. Yeah. Passed the 66 a couple weeks ago. First try. Today was my second day at my new advising firm. Woo! Couldn't have done it without you. I love it.
Excellent. Great news.
So time to put these registrations to work. You know what I love about our business? You get to help others. You get to take care of yourself, take care of your family. So wonderful industry. I'll be taking a shot with you, Dean. All right, there you go. I'm sipping this because this is a sipping tequila, but I had a guy who was over at my house and we were having some tequila, Brian, and he went to put this tequila into a margarita. I go, whoa. What are you doing? That is alcohol abuse. And he said, well, Jim lets us do it. I go, well, Jim must be a better host than me because we're not putting Selection Supreme into a margarita. No. What's the best way to remember opening and closing transactions? Very testable. This is an answer set on the test. I think the best way to remember it is a casino. right? If I go into the casino to establish my position, I do an opening purchase. I buy $5,000 worth of chips, right? When I'm ready to go home, I go to the casino, I do my closing sale. So opening purchases, very testable, are used to establish or add to long positions. That would be the test question. Which of the following orders would be used to establish or add to a long position? Which of the following orders would be used to eliminate, reduce, or offset a long position? That'd be a closing sale. I love, Brian, in the casino, right, when we say color in.
Color in.
That's a closing sale, right? So if I bought $5,000 worth of chips, I do color in, closing sale. I got 10,000. Woohoo! I bought the contract low. I sold the contract high. Right?
Dean, I think I've created a monster.
Probably. Now, the casino is doing an opening sale, right? They're establishing a short position.
Right.
So opening sales are used to establish or add to a short position. Closing purchases would be used, test question. This will be A, B, C, D on the test, to eliminate, reduce, or offset that short position. So Ray, I don't know if Ray is still here, but I told you I got a lot of love for Ray. And Ray did an opening purchase of my tutoring. He established a tutoring session by doing an opening purchase, money out. The premium he paid was $300, right? I did an opening sale. If I didn't want to be obliged to spend time with Ray, I shouldn't have collected his money. I'm short the tutoring session. My family gets upset with me because I use these terms that way. There's what's your calendar today? I said, I'm short 4 tutoring sessions, right? I'm obliged. Now, having work done here, so I called people today and I said, hey, I'm going to have no power off grid here Wednesday, Thursday. Can I buy back that session? You give me 300, I'll give you 400 to release me because I can't actually, perform Wednesday, Thursday without my power, right? So that'll be an A, B, C, D. It's only one question. If you tell me you missed your mark because of that, I'm going to say you had bigger problems elsewhere. But it's, again, A, B, C, D. I'll link to a video that I made just about this situation. Brian, would you have anything to add to that?
I don't. You got it. For me, it takes a little bit longer, more time. And
yeah, okay. Well, we have a video for it on the channel too. It is testable. It'll be A, B, C, D. A, opening purchase. B, opening sale. C, closing purchase. D, closing sale. And then you just got to recognize what order would be used to do what. To establish, opening. We're either establishing a long or short position. Opening purchase, long. Opening sale, short. And then to eliminate, we're going home. Closing. We're either closing the long or short position. To pass the Friday, I'm consistently 60s. I think you're okay. Well, I mean, that's you need to continue to work because differentiating is really important. I would say, Karen, differentiating in the question you're being asked. Am I being asked about a broker dealer? Am I being asked about an investment advisor? Or I'm being asked about an agent or an investment advisor rep? I think, Karen, you should read the question once just to answer that question to yourself. I call that a framing question. A framing question is a question I ask myself before I answer the question. What is this question about? Oh, damn, I thought it was about a broker dealer, but it's about an investment advisor. I did a tutoring session today, Brian, and they missed it because they answered it as it was a BD instead of an investment advisor.
Right.
And then down the road, they missed it again because they answered it as an investment advisor and it was broker dealer. So make sure you're working on differentiating. I still think you're going to pass, but that is something to kind of clean up, remediate over the next couple of days. I hit my videos, Brian, say a lot, neener. Right. So the option expires. So greetings and salutations. All right. SIE tomorrow. All right. Love it. That's our other big one that we say all the time. I had Brian affirm. They told me that they all now are running around the office and they all do that now to each other. Greetings and salutations. They had asked me to make them a little hype video for themselves. So I made them a little hype video and sent it to them. We don't do hype videos on the channel. On calendar, what are the subjects and areas of concern? Well, it depends on your test.
The lowest ones.
Yeah. It depends on well, I'm not sure what exam you're taking, but go to FINRA or NASA, get the test specification. That'll tell you exactly what areas are of concern, what areas are heavily tested. On 7, it's function 3, investment vehicles. Pass the SIE. Who's struggling to keep? You got to keep working. Yeah, help. I don't know how to help you, Lynette. This is a live stream. It's not a miracle course. You just got to keep working. You got to, persistence is so key. You just got to keep working. You don't usually jump. I would say if you keep getting that, you need to remediate. You need to take a strategic pause, not do any more practice tests, and relay some more base. Come back to it 2-3 days. Well, this is Tuesday. If you're testing Saturday, tomorrow, Wednesday, remediate, no practice test. Thursday morning, remediate, no practice test. Thursday afternoon, do another one. I bet you your score will jump into the 70s. I bet the Dean will put this on his wall if he gets it. Okay, I'll get it. Marcel, I trust your taste. So if you're telling me I'll put it on the wall, you know me well enough to know I probably will. I'll have to make some room for it, perhaps. Notice filing or register. Well, it depends. Notice filing is a courtesy by mutual funds to a state administrator. It's not a method of registration. So I'm not sure what you're asking. I just gave you the answer. Notice filing is not a method of registration. It's a courtesy made primarily by mutual funds to the state administrator. That is different than registering through coordination or through qualification. We got a couple super chats. What do you think of Notman Marks? I love them, Ada. They're a fine firm. They're a white glove firm. They charge a little more, but they deliver on that added value. I'm a big fan. They're a little tougher than the actual exams. I think all their people are excellent. Their human capital there is excellent, including Brian Marks of Notman Marks. He does participate in social media on our Reddit, for example. So love them. Where can you find the Series 66 cheat sheet? Well, you're looking at him. That's where you can find the 66 cheat sheet. You can send Brian an email at brian@testgeekexamprep.com. And I'm not sure if the offer is still good, Karen. I would imagine if you send him an email, he'll still honor that. Brian has in the past.
That cheat sheet that we talk about on the podcasts and on the videos is the definition and registration.
There you go.
Person's cheat sheet.
There you go.
So I'd be more than happy to send it to you.
There you go. So it's brian@testgeekexamprep.com.
Yeah.
I read Kaplan when using Notman. I love Notman. No, not a problem. Thanks for the super chat. Okay, Brian, it's time to get the Wheel of Fortune and do our drawing. Yeah. Kai, see you on Tuesday. Love it. Listen, Kai, victorious test takers. Ray, thank you so much. Kai, thank you so much. Catherine, thank you so much. You know what really bucks up a lot of test takers? You can listen to Brian and I, and you should listen to Brian and I. But, sometimes it's better to have somebody who's gone into the cave, they slay the dragon, they come back. I really think it really bucks test takers up. It's good for morale. So alums are always welcome to join us on any Tuesday. We love it. We love having you around, and we'll be looking for you, Guy, on Tuesday. Now, be careful here. I'm going to take Brian. I'm taking you off the screen here while I put up, get the Wheel of Fortune ready.
Okay.
And then you can, since you're off the screen, you can go ahead and if you want, tell us what it's going to be tonight. If you want to participate in the drawing, I got to see what you're doing here, Brian. Let me see. Don't put anything in the chat until I see what Brian's putting up there. Please wait, because I got to get the Wheel of Fortune going. So let me just see here. Boom. Oh, yeah. What a show off. He was at Wrigley Field, so in Chicago. And so if you would like to participate in our drawing, put Wrigley into the chat exactly as you see it, and you can win a coaching call. Let me now get the Wheel of Fortune up. Wrigley's gum. Wrigley used to give a case of gum to their shareholders every quarter. I don't think they do that any longer.
Yes.
I think they're private now. I think they went private.
They did.
Share screen, boom. And let's get our Wheel of Fortune. There's our Wheel of Fortune. And there's Brian. Let's get rid of Kai's comments there. Boom. Let's get rid of that. I don't know why that came up. If you win, remember what you get is not a tutoring session at a date and time of your choosing. What you get is a coaching call. So if you win, you go to deantenneytutoring.setmore.com. You go to the class tab and you'll find where you can register for that coaching call. All right, we got 13 entries. Any more? 14 going once. We should ban Marcel from winning because he's won so many times. It's ridiculous. You know, there for a while, he was on a roll. He was winning so much. I thought, man, people must think that backstage I can, manipulate the wheel. All right, here we go. Boom. Yasha, there you go. You're the winner. So go to deankennytutoring.setmore.com and register your coaching call. It might not be up because I just finished one this morning, Yasha. So there may not be another one up. So if it's not up there tonight, check tomorrow and it should be up there. So I do them as I do them. I put the new ones up. All right. Well, as I say, remember, inch by inch, your exam is a cinch. Yard by yard, your exam is hard. And Brian, you say?
As we've mentioned before, it's so important. I say it with all sincerity. Keep it simple. Stay with what you know. You take the test. Don't let the test take you.
All right, everybody. We will see you next Tuesday, 5 p.m. Arizona time. Bye-bye.